To find out what my online boyfriend looked like, I decided to send him a bubble tea under the guise of a delivery person. Standing at his doorstep, I excitedly texted him, "Sweetheart, the bubble tea I ordered for you has arrived, aren't I thoughtful? Can I get rewarded by meeting you and devouring you whole right away?" Click. The door opened. Standing there in a suit was my boss, Ethan. He frowned slightly and asked, "Liv, are you moonlighting as a delivery rider?" I steadied myself, forced a smile, and said, "Yep, boss, I'm short on cash, so I'm picking up some side gigs." He pulled out a stack of cash and stuffed it into my pocket. "Take this job," he said. "What kind of job?" "I bought my girlfriend a pound of gold bars. Deliver them to her, and while you're at it, check out what she looks like." I was speechless. Day 300 of knowing my online boyfriend, Ethan. He proposed meeting up. Fishy, when can we meet? I want to take responsibility for you offline too. Attached to his message were 10 photos, abs, biceps, a sexy Adam's apple, and a sharp jawline. I couldn't deny it. Ethan was a dangerously attractive man. He had an incredible physique, a great personality, and he was amazing at video games. When I was frustrated, he would join me in cursing out my boss. When I couldn't sleep, he'd play the piano for me with his long, elegant fingers. The only thing missing? A picture of his face. Whenever I asked for one, he dodged the question. "I want it to be a surprise when we meet," he'd say. So, I consoled myself, Ethan might be ugly, but he's 6'3". Ethan might be ugly, but he has abs. I kept repeating this to myself like a mantra. I quickly texted him back, "I'll think about it." While I was bold and flirty online, the thought of meeting in person turned me into a nervous wreck. What if Ethan was some creepy guy? To verify that he was a normal person and not just using stock photos, I devised a plan. I bought a delivery uniform online and ordered him a bubble tea. After picking it up from the store myself, I headed to the address he had sent me. This way, everything would be safe and reliable. Standing at his doorstep, I gave myself a pep talk. A guy like Ethan, with a perfect body and a villa to his name, he might not be conventionally handsome, but he could definitely afford to fix that. Calming my nerves, I texted him, "Sweet Ethan, your bubble tea is almost there." I made sure not to add any extra sugar, just how you like it. Ethan, as usual, replied instantly, "I've got a gift for you too, babe." We had exchanged addresses, but mutually agreed not to show up uninvited. I couldn't hold back my excitement and texted, "Is the gift a chance to meet you and devour you whole?" Ethan. Ethan was quite traditional. While he was fine sending muscle pics, he never crossed any lines, just fitness tips and invites to work out together. Whenever I flirted a little too much, his response was always 6 dots. The more we talked, the more hyped I got. "Well, if you're serious about meeting, you better prepare yourself, Ethan. Girls should be more cautious." What if I'm a bad guy? Before I could reply, the door opened. A 6'3" man in casual clothes stood in front of me. He frowned slightly, adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses, and looked me up and down. "Liv? Ethan?" I gaped at him, my jaw practically hitting the floor. Ethan and I stared at each other for several seconds before I stammered, "Boss, is this 6 Westwood Lane?" A whirlwind of thoughts raced through my mind. My boss is Ethan. Ethan is my boss. I was spiraling into despair. "It is," Ethan said, narrowing his eyes with an unreadable expression. "Liv, are you moonlighting as a delivery rider?" Yes, you're absolutely right." I discreetly wiped the sweat from my forehead and calmly replied in my most professional tone, "Mr. Ethan, I'm just trying to make ends meet. Money's tight, so I took up a side gig. "This bubble tea is from your girlfriend, please remember to leave me a good review." I turned to leave, silently praising my quick thinking. Good thing I didn't agree to meet Ethan directly. If he found out I was his online girlfriend, the one who had been shamelessly flirting with him, he'd probably fire me on the spot. Given his usual methods, I wouldn't just lose my job, I'd be blacklisted from the entire industry. "Hold on," Ethan called out, walking up to me. "How did you know my girlfriend ordered this for me?" Well. I nervously pointed at the bubble tea. "Isn't it written in the note?" "Sweetheart, I want to be your warm bubble tea." Good grief, how cringe. Love really makes people lose their sense of shame. Ethan let out a quiet "oh." But he wasn't done with me yet. Instead, he pulled out a stack of cash and handed it to me. "Take this job." "What job?" I asked, staring at the pile of cash in confusion. Classic Ethan. Always so generous. "I bought my girlfriend a 1-pound gold bar. I need you to deliver it to her and check what she looks like while you're at it." Ethan pulled a hefty gold bar out of his pocket and placed it in my hand. "She's shy, so don't scare her." Me? Checking myself out? But wow, Ethan's money is so easy to earn in the workplace. He's ruthless, but in romance, he splurges a whole gold bar. "Why aren't you saying anything? Is this too difficult?" He frowned at me. It wasn't that it was hard, it was more that I was thinking the same thing he was. "Ethan, why are you doing online dating?" I blurted out before I could stop myself. With his looks, height, and physique, Ethan was the whole package. In the company, from investors to female employees, everyone was practically drooling over him. The only problem was his personality, cold and unapproachable. Ethan's frown deepened. "What, I can't online date?" No, I'm just saying, why not video call her yourself to confirm?" I adjusted my delivery rider's cap. "My face is intimidating." "I don't want to scare her," Ethan said with a straight face, which only made him look even more intimidating. He wasn't wrong. Ethan had this cold, aloof look about him that even dogs would avoid. Kids would burst into tears just seeing his face. In the entire office, I was probably the only person who dared to approach him when he was in a bad mood to deliver documents. Ethan's face wasn't just intimidating, it also looked expensive. Once, a client negotiating a deal commented, "His face? It screams money. It's rich, intimidating, and completely unapproachable." "Ethan, true love wouldn't let a face get in the way," I said, shoving the gold bar back into his hand. Gold prices were high right now. This gift was just too extravagant. More importantly, I was terrified he'd discover that his online girlfriend was me and take legal action. "You're right. I'll video call her now." Ethan pulled out his phone and dialed right in front of me. The next second, my phone started ringing. Ethan's sharp eyes narrowed, gleaming like 2 stars in the night, locked onto my vibrating phone in my pocket. I froze, paralyzed between leaving or staying. The call ended. Both Ethan and I let out a breath of relief. But then, my heart leaped into my throat as Ethan spoke again. "Liv, your phone just rang. Why didn't you answer?" I was just so focused on wanting to see what your girlfriend looks like." Trying to act like a professional delivery rider, I pulled out my phone. "It was just a customer pushing me about their order, Ethan. I need to get going now." I forced a smile on my face while crying internally. Who would have thought the guy who played games with me all night, helping me rank up in levels, would turn out to be Ethan? "Wait, don't go just yet. I'll call again," Ethan said, picking up his phone to dial once more. I quickly grabbed his phone. Ethan, this kind of dramatic online dating meetup scenario, me being here feels inappropriate. It's appropriate. You can be my support. I forced an awkward chuckle while desperately holding onto his phone. My mind raced. How about I go meet your girlfriend for you instead? Ethan, as a woman myself, I think she didn't answer the call because she wasn't ready to meet you yet. Alright, go ahead then. He handed me the gold bar and a generous delivery tip. For the first time, I realized Ethan could be so easy to manipulate. Whatever I said, he listened to. In contrast to his usual demeanor at work, where he'd always say, no. Denied. Rejected. Too expensive, poor quality. Do you really think your suggestion makes sense? He rarely accepted anyone else's input. But now, it seemed like he'd agree to anything I said. Turns out, people lack confidence in areas they're not good at. When I got home, I hid in my room, clutching the heavy gold bar, and started counting the cash Ethan had handed me. He'd casually given me $2,000. Clearly, he cared a lot about his online girlfriend. Just as I was feeling a mix of guilt and anxiety, a message from Ethan popped up. Ethan, baby, do you like the gift I sent you? With trembling fingers, I replied, got it. No emojis, no flirting, no unnecessary words. It was as professional as a work email. Ethan must have sensed my indifference because he cautiously followed up, Ethan, baby, do you not like it? Is it too tacky? Would you prefer jewelry over gold bars? Ethan, if you like jewelry, I can buy that too. I just thought gold bars were a better investment. Ethan was surprisingly sensitive in relationships. No, I'm just busy with work. I'm tired. Going to sleep now. I thought that would be the end of it. But then, my work app pinged. Ethan, why haven't you submitted your report yet? Ethan, it's complicated. The thought of meeting Ethan in person sent shivers down my spine. After a moment of panic, I made a decision. I'd rather cut this off now. Love can be lost. But I can't afford to lose my job. Ethan, what's so complicated? Did you meet her? I met her. She's shorter than me, rounder, wearing a mask. Honestly, she doesn't look quite like a woman. Ethan, you're not being scammed, are you? Ethan was infamous for being a workaholic. Deals he wanted to close were pursued relentlessly, day and night. I was one of his earliest employees, practically a founding member of his team. Ethan, while sharp and demanding, was undoubtedly a good boss. Stingy at times, yes, but he spent money where it mattered most. Working under him gave me invaluable experience, a stellar resume, and end-of-year bonuses ranging from tens to even hundreds of thousands of dollars. A boss like that? You don't let him slip away. Ethan replied. Ethan, think about it. She or he, honestly I can't tell, isn't right for you, I said. She's a woman. I've seen her photo, Ethan responded. Come on, Ethan. Photos can be edited, and anyone can grab a random image off the internet. Online dating is risky, better safe than sorry. Need me to help you get that pound of gold back? No need, Ethan replied curtly. Half an hour passed without any messages on the work app. Nervously, I posted a message on my private social media feed visible only to him, suddenly feel like moving to a new place. I'd thought it through. Breaking up outright felt too abrupt. Better to gradually distance myself from Ethan. Out of habit, I opened our chat thread. On the other side of the screen, I saw the dreaded typing bubble flickering relentlessly. The next morning, as soon as I arrived at the office, my assistant hurried over. Liv, Ethan came in with dark circles under his eyes this morning. Didn't you guys sleep last night? I offered a faint smile. Not really. It had been a restless night for me. Staring at that typing bubble, I couldn't fall asleep. Ethan, ever sensitive, had been unyieldingly formal when I first teased him, "We're just online acquaintances from a game. I don't date." But later, when I pestered him during late-night work sessions, he was always there. When I vented about my ruthless boss, he initially responded with, "Every leader has their challenges." Gradually, that turned into, "Why does your boss bully you so much? Tell me who they are, I'll buy their company and teach them a lesson for you." I sighed. I used to think Ethan was just boasting. Now, I could only be grateful that I never badmouthed Ethan by name. I hadn't even sat at my desk for 2 minutes when Ethan called me into his office. Dressed in a tailored suit that accentuated his tall frame, he looked as impeccable as ever. Gold-rimmed glasses perched on his nose, his hair styled immaculately, and even his tie was flawlessly coordinated in color. And then it hit me. Ethan had a peculiar habit. He'd often ask me for advice on matching ties and suits. Looking at him now, I realized all my suggestions had been perfectly executed, down to the last detail. No wonder I thought he looked so stylish. "Does it look good?" Ethan's cold voice interrupted my thoughts. He tapped his desk with a finger, pulling me back to reality. "Ethan, you always look good." I flashed him a coy smile, only to see him adjust his glasses awkwardly. He stared at me for a few seconds before speaking in a measured tone. "Did I make a mistake?" "Huh? Liv, what's your experience with relationships?" His piercing gaze locked onto mine. "Not much," I stammered. "Not much at all." This was my first online romance, and Ethan's grueling work schedule had robbed me of any prime dating years. "She posted on social media yesterday, saying she wanted to move," Ethan said, his expression betraying a sliver of disappointment. "Does she hate gold? Maybe she prefers cash?" No way, I looked into Ethan's eyes and felt a pang of guilt. "Maybe she doesn't like gold bars?" Ethan studied me intently. "Liv, come with me to a jewelry store. I want to pick out some nice pieces for my girlfriend." He pulled out his phone, staring at the screen thoughtfully. "I sent her several messages this morning, and she hasn't replied. Normally, she would have answered by now. She wouldn't want to move without a reason. And she never mentioned wanting to move before, only after I sent her that gold bar yesterday." Ethan closed his phone with a snap, his analytical expression akin to that of a detective. His sharp eyes bore into me. Was he suspecting me? Panicking, I blurted out, "Ethan, you're definitely being scammed. She took the bar and now wants to leave." "She's not like that," Ethan said, narrowing his eyes, displeased with my accusation. I quickly backtracked, stammering, "Right, Ethan, of course. Anyone you fancy wouldn't be like that. That necklace you're wearing, is it from Van Cleef Arpels?" Ethan asked suddenly, his eyes fixed on my neck with curiosity. "My girlfriend has the same one." "Oh, mine's a knockoff," I said without thinking. The word slipped out before my brain could catch up. "Is that so?" Ethan raised an eyebrow, his long fingers tapping rhythmically on the desk. He gave me a meaningful look. "My girlfriend's is also a knockoff." The room fell silent as I froze in place, unsure of what to do. Ethan, on the other hand, stood from his chair and began walking toward me with deliberate steps. His gaze was dark and unreadable, and the air around him seemed to thrum with an intimidating energy. I was doomed. This necklace was a common design, anyone could have one, but could he have figured something out? "Liv," Ethan's voice was firm and resolute as he stopped just 4 inches away from me. "Are you still going to your side job tonight?" My side job, take me with you. I just had your assistant order a delivery rider uniform online. I'm going with you tonight to deliver orders. Ethan's words were slow and deliberate, as if he had made some monumental decision. I forced a strained smile and nodded repeatedly to maintain my last shred of dignity. Back at my desk, Ethan's assistant approached me. Liv, did Ethan really ask me to buy him a delivery rider uniform? Is our company going bankrupt? I had no idea whether the company was going under. All I knew was that if I didn't figure something out before tonight, I was done for. I opened my phone and stared at the barrage of messages from Ethan. Miss you, baby. Baby, why aren't you responding to me? Are you upset? Is your mean boss giving you a hard time? Baby, just tell me what company it is, and I'll teach your boss a lesson for you. I miss you. Once again, my resolve wavered. Ethan was undeniably a hopeless romantic. Thankfully, he was also a bit of a pushover in matters of love. Desperate, I reached out to my best friend for help. Please, you have to save me. She replied, no can do. I'm flying overseas tonight. Why don't you ask Harrison? Maybe he can dress up as a guy and scare your boss off for good. Brilliant idea. Harrison was my gay best friend, and he'd been in on my online romance from the very beginning. He agreed without hesitation. By the time I arrived, he was already at home, donning a wig and a dress, waiting for me. I changed into my delivery rider uniform and went to pick up Ethan from the upscale neighborhood where he lived. He had already swapped into his uniform as well. Even in his new work attire, Ethan's tall and commanding presence made it impossible to ignore his natural charisma. We hadn't ridden more than 100 yards on our electric scooters before multiple people turned their heads to stare. At a red light, someone even came up to ask for his number. Thankfully, his icy demeanor scared them off. We rode into the neighborhood, where Ethan followed me to the door of a house. Ethan, maybe you should handle your personal matters privately. I've got another order to deliver, I said, trying to make a quick escape. Before I could leave, Ethan grabbed my arm. You can't go. I need you as backup. The door creaked open. Harrison appeared, teetering in high heels with an exaggerated smoky eye look. In a falsetto voice, he greeted us. Hello, is this the stuff my boyfriend ordered for me? Oh my, he's so sweet, he even got 2 delivery riders to bring it over. Cough cough. Sorry, my throat's a bit sore lately. Harrison, ever the drama queen, took the takeout from Ethan and me while giving Ethan a once-over from head to toe. Wow, since when are delivery guys this good-looking? His commentary was a bit much. Worried about Ethan catching on, I quickly pushed him toward the exit. Let's go, we still have more deliveries to make. Ethan's face was frozen, his entire body stiff. His hand hovered awkwardly in the air, mid-motion. The disbelief on his usually stoic face was almost palpable, as if something inside him had quietly shattered. Harrison kept up the act. Wow, my boyfriend got me a gold bracelet and an authentic Van Cleef necklace. Love you, babe. Ethan's breathing was heavy in my ear, his fists clenched tightly. I was terrified he'd throw a punch, so I hurriedly shut the door in Harrison's face. The night was silent except for Ethan's ragged breathing beside me. Under the moonlight, his eyes glistened with unshed tears, red-rimmed and full of emotion. Ethan, I told you this would happen, but you insisted on seeing it for yourself, I said, spreading my hands helplessly. Look at you now, working yourself up into such a state. Was it worth it? I couldn't help feeling a tiny bit smug. For once, the mighty Ethan, who always treated me like a workhorse, seemed genuinely human. In fact, a small, devious part of me wanted to shout internally, cry, just cry already. Suddenly, a a woman's voice pierced the quiet. "Ollie, why are you standing out here so late? It's cold, you'll catch a chill." I turned to see Maggie, my upstairs neighbor and landlord, standing at the stairway entrance, waving at me. I froze in place, nearly on the verge of tears myself. "Ollie, what's wrong? Tell me, has someone been bullying you? You can always come to me. Wait, why are you delivering takeout?" Maggie owned the entire building and was a bit of a busybody. Ever since I helped her up after a fall, she'd been stopping by with vegetables and unsolicited advice. "Oh, Maggie, what a coincidence," I forced a smile. "I've just had some unexpected expenses lately, so I picked up a little side gig." "I see. Well, you take care. It's dangerous out here at night with all the bad people around." Maggie shot a suspicious glance at Ethan before walking away. "Sure thing, I'll head inside soon," I said, my cheeks aching from the forced grin. As soon as Maggie left, I let out a sigh of relief. But Ethan, now deep in thought, turned to me. "You live here too?" "Yep, what a small world," I said brightly, hoping to change the subject. "Ethan, you really should show more care for your employees. You didn't even know where I live." "Oh." Ethan leaned against the wall, his gaze unwavering. "Something doesn't add up." "Doesn't add up?" "Yeah, didn't you say my girlfriend is shorter than you? Why is this one taller than you?" Ethan raised an eyebrow as he stepped towards the door. "I need to clarify this." "Don't ask." I quickly grabbed Ethan's hand, stopping him mid-knock. I tightened my grip and blurted out, "Nonsense, Ethan, get a grip. I didn't want to tell you, but the other day, when I was delivering food, I saw several men coming in and out of here." "Your online boyfriend, well, he has multiple boyfriends." Instead of confronting him, focus on living your own life. "If you can't bear to do it, I'll delete him for you." The more I spoke, the more dejected Ethan became. His eyes looked as if they were about to overflow with tears. I patted his shoulder and said, "Go home, Ethan. Get some sleep and find someone new. Avoid online dating next time." "Liv, do you have plans later?" "No, not really." "Then come with me to a bar." "Ethan, I just remembered I have a side gig. I'll cover it." $10,000, is that enough?" "Ethan, I'm not that kind of person." 20,000. "Ethan." 50,000, he said firmly, heading for the stairs. "All right, Ethan. I'll go with you," I said, following him to the bar. $50,000, who could resist that? It was like winning the lottery out of nowhere, and besides, if I could capture a drunken Ethan on video, I'd have a solid hold over my boss. Who wouldn't be tempted by that? At the bar, the atmosphere was loud and chaotic. Ethan downed one drink after another. Under the dim lighting, his face appeared especially striking and handsome. After a few drinks, even his usual stern demeanor seemed to soften. Suddenly, I remembered something Ethan had told me about his childhood. I was abandoned by my parents and grew up in an orphanage. When I became capable enough to look for them, I found out they had already started new families. Because I was born out of their youthful mistakes, neither of them wanted to acknowledge me. He had said, "No one ever cared about me, but someday, someone will. You'll care for me, and I'll care for you." I gripped my glass tightly, staring at Ethan. I had fought my way through life alone since I was young. My parents were uneducated and only cared about my younger brother. They sold me off into marriage for $30,000. I ran away to the city, worked hard for a year, and saved up $30,000 to give to my dad before they finally agreed to cut ties with me. After that, I threw myself into my studies and worked tirelessly to build a life in the city. Over the years, they never contacted me, and I grew to despise intimate relationships. I didn't want to get married or start a family. Until I met Ethan. His cautious sincerity, followed by his warm enthusiasm, melted my heart. Ethan, do you call Fishy by her nickname? Ethan's voice snapped me back to the present. I looked down to find my glass empty. My mouth moved as if it had a mind of its own. Yes, I'm Olivia, I said with a smile. Ethan, you always call me Liv. Do you not even know my real name? Ollie and Fishy, they're so alike, he murmured, leaning closer. His eyes were red. You have no idea how much I like her. She's my first love. The more he spoke, the redder his eyes became, as if he was genuinely about to cry this time. Ethan, you're drunk, I said, patting his shoulder with determination. A breakup is no big deal, making money is what matters most. To get a better look at him, I leaned in closer. No crying, you hear me? I'm not crying, he said, wiping his eyes with his sleeve. Where are the tears? Ethan, stop pretending to be strong. I know you're hurting inside. Cry if you want, I'll wipe your tears for you. As I spoke, I pulled out my phone, ready to capture this moment. What a priceless piece of footage this would be. Liv, your phone case looks exactly like my girlfriend's, he exclaimed, pointing at it. Really? I just got it replaced. She also just got hers replaced recently. Ethan looked up, his eyes softly resting on me. Now that I think about it, your voice sounds like hers too. Say this, Ethan, I want you to play the piano for me. That's inappropriate, I said, deliberately lowering my voice. Then say, Ethan, let me see your abs. Even less appropriate. Ethan, can we meet so I can have my way with you? Oh my God, what kind of scandalous things were these? And why were they coming out of my mouth? Liv, can't you at least indulge me a little and comfort me? Ethan asked, downing another drink. Ethan, I really can't say those things. They're all in the drink, I said, lowering my voice further. If I said those words, he would definitely recognize me. After all, I always spoke in a falsetto when I talked to Ethan online. To show my apology, I drank glass after glass with Ethan. By the end, I was completely drunk, while he sat across from me, looking as sober as ever. I had to admit, under the bar's atmospheric lighting, Ethan's face was exceptionally handsome. His sharp features and perfectly proportioned physique were simply breathtaking. That face got closer and closer to mine. The bar ambience pulled me into Ethan's arms. And then, I blacked out. I only remembered having a very long dream. In the dream, I lifted Ethan's shirt, ran my hands over his body, and even praised how beautifully sculpted his abs were. When I woke up, I was already in my room, wearing a silk pajama set. And my left leg was draped over Ethan's body. Oh no. This was bad. Really bad. I tiptoed out of bed, dressed as quickly as I could, and fled the scene of the crime like a fugitive. Back at my desk, I kept replaying the events of the previous night in my mind, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't remember anything. Olivia, big news, my assistant came racing out of the boss's office, practically glowing with excitement. I just came from the CEO's office. Ethan's face was as red as a tomato. I silently looked at her. Wait, Olivia, why is your face so red too? She plopped down beside me and peered at me closely. Are you running a fever? A chill ran down my spine. I racked my brain, trying desperately to recall if I had said or done something inappropriate last night. Olivia, you and Ethan didn't, you know. It's not what you're thinking, I interrupted her abruptly. Oh, good, I was worried you two got into some heated argument or something. Ugh. So I was the only one whose mind was in the gutter. I got a text on WhatsApp from Harrison, sis, how was the performance last night? Your boyfriend is ridiculously handsome. Guys like him are a rare breed. You better lock that down. Oh, by the way, your landlady came by yesterday. She said she was worried about you and asked if you needed a boyfriend. She even offered to set you up with someone. My reply, yeah, I should probably find someone. Time to deflect. Harrison, so I agreed on your behalf. You've got a date at 6 p.m. today. More fish in the sea, right? Me, you're the best, sis. I threw myself into work, hoping to drown out my mental turmoil. Meanwhile, Ethan was also holed up in his office, working tirelessly. It wasn't until the end of the day that I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Ethan hadn't come looking for me, which meant I probably didn't do anything too crazy last night. Just as I was about to leave, Ethan glanced at me. Leaving so early today? Of course, before I could respond further, my assistant piped up, Olivia's got a blind date tonight. I wonder what kind of guy could possibly be a match for her. Ethan froze mid-movement, almost spilling his coffee. Then, stiff as a board, he walked past me with a rigid posture, his face dark as a storm cloud. Even my assistant looked uneasy. Did I say something wrong, Olivia? I didn't answer, instead rushing off to meet my landlady at the arranged blind date spot. The last thing I expected was for the blind date to be her son. Her son was actually quite attractive, tall, good-looking, and well-dressed. He worked in software development and had an annual salary of $500,000. My landlady had mentioned him before, but I always thought she was joking. Olivia, this is my son, Lynn. He's got a stable job, and our family owns a lot of property. What do you think? While she was making introductions, I reached out to shake Lynn's hand. But before our hands could meet, a large hand grabbed my wrist. I turned my head to find Ethan standing beside me, his hand firmly on my shoulder. Sit. And you are? Lynn and my landlady asked in unison. I'm Olivia's boss. Ethan brushed some imaginary dust off his shoulder, crossed his long legs, and looked utterly displeased. I heard she was going on a blind date, so I came to check things out. I forced a polite smile, trying my best to appear composed. Oh, the boss, my landlady exclaimed in realization. We've met before, haven't we? So you're her boss. Ethan's expression remained icy as he turned to Lynn and went straight to the point. How much are you worth? Ethan. I reached out to cover his mouth. Who asked such a question on a blind date? My family owns a building, my landlady answered with a proud smile. I own one, and my son owns another. Ethan turned to me, his tone casual yet pointed. I own 3 villas and 5 apartment buildings. But if you want 2 whole buildings, that can be arranged. Did he even realize what he was saying? My son makes $500,000 a year. Your company doesn't seem to be doing all that well, does it? My landlady's competitive streak flared. Our Olivia is such a wonderful girl, she shouldn't have to run herself ragged doing delivery gigs on the side just because of you. $500,000 a year? Ethan raised an eyebrow, exuding an intimidating aura. I make more than that in a month. As for the delivery work, that's just a personal hobby of ours. Ha, anyone can talk big, my landlady sneered. It's true. I coughed awkwardly, quietly backing him up. Her face darkened. Really? Of course, Ethan said as he stood up, towering over everyone. Your son doesn't seem to be as tall as I am. His proportions aren't as balanced either. I have an 8-pack. Does he? Without thinking, I tugged at Ethan's sleeve. Enough. Seriously, enough. The cafe fell silent. Finally, my landlady furrowed her brows and asked, "You talk yourself up so much, are you planning to marry Olivia? Do you even like her? If you're not here to date her, then what's the point of all this?" Maggie, our landlord, crossed her arms and laughed heartily. A boss meddling in their employee's personal life? Isn't that crossing the line? So? Ethan, completely unbothered by Maggie's comments, turned his head slightly to look at me. "Have you thought about me? Last night, you told me." I quickly clamped my hands over Ethan's mouth. "Sorry, Maggie. You and Mr. Lin are lovely, really. But I've got some things to take care of." I tugged and pulled Ethan toward the car, practically shoving him inside. "Ethan, I've always respected you, but what you just did really put me in an awkward spot." My heart was pounding, and a terrifying thought flashed through my mind. What if Ethan had figured out that I was his online girlfriend? Could his sudden appearance here just to ruin my blind date make sense? It absolutely could. Thankfully, I had already packed up everything he'd ever given me, ready to ship it back at a moment's notice. "Respect?" Ethan smirked, a rare cold smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "Respecting me means taking advantage of me and then running off to date someone else? Did I do something I shouldn't have last night?" I asked cautiously, feeling a sense of doom. "Claiming you'd take responsibility for me while simultaneously cutting ties, is that what you call respect?" Ethan adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Liv, I never thought you were this kind of person, saying one thing in public and doing another in private. Pushing me onto the bed, saying you loved me, and now acting all shocked? Your performance deserves an award." I opened my mouth, then closed it again. It took me a long while to find my voice. "I'm sorry, but I really don't remember what happened between us last night." "No problem. I've got a recording." Ethan pulled a voice recorder out of his pocket and placed it in front of me. "Do you want to listen to it yourself, or shall I play it for you?" "That won't be necessary." I tossed the recorder onto the back seat, forcing a sheepish smile. Memories of fleeting dream-like fragments from the previous night suddenly surfaced, making my face flush red. "Ethan, how do you want me to take responsibility? Do I really need to spell it out for you?" He raised an eyebrow and pulled out his phone, displaying several screenshots of chat logs from an account named Fishy talking to Ethan. "My online girlfriend once said that taking responsibility means, you sleep with me once, I sleep with you once. That was just me talking nonsense." She also said responsibility means becoming part of each other's lives. "Starting today, you'll move into my place. I won't charge you rent." Ethan didn't give me a chance to argue. That very night, he had a room prepared for me, complete with new clothes and toiletries. Unable to resist, I probed him. "Aren't you worried your online girlfriend will be upset about this?" I had a sinking feeling that I'd said something I shouldn't have. He'd clearly already figured out my true identity. "We broke up," Ethan replied matter-of-factly, tapping his fingers on the desk. "Don't worry about her. Just focus on taking responsibility for me." Oh, Lord. This was undoubtedly my punishment. Living at Ethan's place for a month turned into an unexpected routine. He became my personal driver, taking me to and from work and even to the gym afterward. He assigned me a task: "I'll work on my abs, you work on your waistline." This was my first time spending so much time with Ethan up close. I used to think of him as this robotic, unapproachable boss, a machine when it came to work. Now? He was standing right in front of me, very much human. After workouts, I'd take him to try hot and spicy chicken skewers. He'd grimace at the spice. I'd buy durian and sneak it into his mouth. He'd gag dramatically. He'd pucker up at sour flavors, and he even got scared on a Ferris wheel, though he tried to hide it. He wasn't just Ethan the boss. He was Ethan, alive and real, right in front of me. "What's on your mind?" Ethan asked, his breathing heavy, his sharp gaze meeting mine. "Oh, nothing." I quickly averted my eyes and smiled at him, though my gaze kept flickering back to his collarbones. Those collarbones. Those muscles. That Adam's apple. I swallowed hard. Damn it, why couldn't I remember anything from that night? Nothing? Then why couldn't you even hold on to the dumbbell? He pointed at my foot, which was pinned under a dumbbell. "Liv, your arm strength is pathetic. You need more practice." He spent the entire evening with me in the gym, acting as my personal trainer. At one point, Ethan stood directly behind me, his body pressing close, his arms wrapping around mine as he corrected my posture. I could feel his breath, his heartbeat, and the warmth of his body. "What are you thinking about again?" "Your body," I blurted out. Ethan didn't miss a beat. "Go ahead." It was as if he'd been waiting for me to say it. "Really?" My voice trembled. "Tell me, who could resist?" Ethan in a suit during work hours was a vision of professionalism, while his casual clothes at home painted an entirely different picture. He'd often wander around in thin shirts that clung to his frame, and when he showered, he'd purposefully ask me to fetch a towel for him. Watching TV and eating fruit, his lips slightly parted, I couldn't stop thinking about his physique. "Of course," he said, his tone firm and resolute. The second he said those words, I dropped the gym equipment and rushed home. I couldn't help myself, I reached out to touch his abs. He caught my hand. "You stink. Let me shower first." Bursting with excitement, I dashed into the bathroom next door to shower. My mind raced with scenarios of how I would finally admit to him that I was his online girlfriend. The more I thought about it, the more thrilling it felt. That was until Ethan walked out of the bathroom, a towel wrapped around his waist. "You're faster than I imagined," he said, chuckling softly as he saw me tucked under the blanket. It was rare to see Ethan laugh so genuinely. The only other time was the day the company went public. This was the second. "Then you'll have to be slower than I imagined," I teased, turning off the lights. After all, it had already happened once. Doing it again would only make me more exhilarated. Half an hour later. "Turn the lights on." "I can't find it," Ethan said, sounding a bit helpless. Then how did you find it last time?" "What last time?" "There was no last time, just this one." His kisses rained down on me like a summer shower. I tried to open my mouth to ask something, but no words came out. By the time the night was at its darkest and the moon had set, the sun had begun to rise. I finally heard Ethan's voice in my ear, this time, "You're officially mine, fishy." It was Saturday noon before I regained full consciousness. Ethan had prepared lunch for me. "You need to replenish your energy," he said with a smirk. I glared at him, annoyed. "When did you figure it out?" I could vividly recall him calling my name, his tone deliberate and teasing. "I started suspecting the day you delivered food to me." He finished lunch with clean efficiency, a sly smile playing at his lips. "After that, things just didn't add up. Then came the night you got drunk. You were lying on top of me, calling me Ethan in your sleep, and even using voice messages to say my name exactly the same way." I nearly cried in embarrassment. So that night, in my drunken stupor, I had let slip the secret I should never have. "Olivia, how could I be so unlikable that you didn't even want to meet me?" His smile faded, replaced by a faint sigh. "Am I that scary looking?" "No, it's not that. Did I make you feel pressured and annoyed?" Did you hate me so much after finding out I was your online date that you wanted to break up? Not that either. I was just afraid I'd lose my job. I lowered my head, mumbling softly. For me, work was my anchor, my security. Romance seemed secondary in comparison. Your abilities are something I've always respected, he said, sounding relieved. So, it's not because you find me unattractive that you wanted to break up. Both Ethan and I were people who craved a sense of security. Work was the only thing we truly trusted. That's why, when we didn't know each other's real identities in our online relationship, we felt free to be ourselves. But once the truth was revealed, we both hesitated. Fortunately, he didn't give up on me. Ding dong. The doorbell rang. Ethan got up to answer it, and Maggie, the cleaner, stepped inside. She immediately recognized me. Ethan, you really brought this young lady home, huh? Miss Olivia, you were so drunk that night. You threw up all over yourself and Ethan. He even called me over to help change your clothes. Honestly, I could tell that Ethan thought you were special. You two just look like you're meant to be together. Maggie was even more excited than I was. So, that night, nothing actually happened between us? I asked Ethan. Of course not. After I changed your clothes, I was about to leave, but you grabbed me and insisted I stay. You clung to me like an octopus. Auntie, I let out an awkward laugh, shrugging my shoulders. I think I need a nap now. Behind me, I heard stifled laughter. Maggie laughed the loudest. Ethan, stop laughing, you were clinging to her like an octopus. Oh, young people these days, you're all so amusing. I didn't leave my room until Maggie had gone. My assistant texted me, OMG, Olivia, breaking news, Ethan has a girlfriend. Me, how do you know? Assistant, his social media, and from our company's account, no less. Is this like a miracle? The Ice King has thawed? A lion going for a lamb? I scrolled through Ethan's post. From the first moment I saw you, I knew you were special. From now on, I hope you'll take good care of me. The picture attached was of the two of us at the gym. Assistant, guess who it is? Olivia, why do I feel like it's you the more I look at it? Me, it's me. The assistant quickly deleted the part about the Ice King thawing. Assistant, you two are perfect together. Olivia, you have to be happy the night was peaceful. I was out of breath, exhausted, and couldn't help but sigh. I really need to work on my stamina. You do. I was only using 20 of my strength. Me. Late into the night, my Ethan lay in my arms, resembling a big, affectionate puppy. He said, it's a good thing you didn't go into acting. You were so unconvincing, pretending to deliver an order with just a cup of tea in hand. I chuckled weakly. Next time, I'll plan it better. There's going to be a next time? Me? I'm kidding. But I'm not. The sun rose steadily. It was Sunday. Tomorrow would be Monday. I was tired. But at least, I was tired and happy.